And that was the president there earlier today giving us his Democracy Day speech. Well, to our first conversation now, since attaining independence on October 1st, 1960, Nigeria has faced numerous challenges in its quest to establish a stable democratic government following a turbulent period marked by military coups and the role of military generals. The 1999 election brought a glimmer of hope for democratic future in Nigeria. Since then, subsequent elections have taken place, reflecting the significance of democratic processes which encompass an informed electorate and safeguarding for fundamental human rights. But the question is, has democracy led to development in Nigeria? Well, joining me now is Professor Omano Deji, Associate Professor of Practice, University of Johannesburg, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Happy Democracy Day.
Thank you, Ladi, and happy Democracy Day to you and to all Nigerians.
Fantastic, thank you. So, how would you assess the level of development achieved in Nigeria, so far, considering the prevalent perspective in literature that, highlights the strong correlation between democracy and development? In developed democracies, there's an assumption of a connection between democracy and economic progress. How would you gauge, progress so far?
I think the first point that I want to make is to acknowledge the heroes of our democracy, which are the market women, the artisan. They were the heroes of democracy. They sacrificed so much for us to have the democracy that we have today. So I need to acknowledge the role that they play. Then I think the point you made, there is no empirical evidence to indicate that there's a correlation between democracy and development. What you have is that authoritarian developmental states are unsustainable in the long run. But even if there is no correlation between democracy and development, democracy on its own is something that is worth celebrating. The right to people to associate, the right to people to have a free speech and move around, and to be human beings. Those are values that are worth celebrating in their own right. But the sustainability of democracy depends on development. So that is where I want to come in to look at what has been the record since 1999. And just reflecting on that, I did a book. The title is Nigeria, Democracy Without Development, How to Face It. So you first of all, let us look at GDP growth in the democratic dispensation. If you look at the data, Nigeria has actually not done very well. I think besides 2002, when our GDP growth rate was about 15%. When you then look at in subsequent years, it is going up and down, and I think at the moment we are at about 3%. In the democratic dispensation, we have witnessed recession. So from a growth perspective, from economic growth perspective, I think we have not done very well. Then let us look at sectorial contribution to GDP, which is the industry, service sector, and agriculture. One of the most disturbing facts of the democratic dispensation is that industry contribution to GDP is declining remarkably. And it is even worse in the manufacturing subsector. Agricultural contribution is increasing. The service sector contribution is increasing, which is it is neither yet nor there.
All right, Prof. Okay,
yes.
Prof, looking at where we are, right now, if we didn't have, democracy, would we have the kind of growth that we have right now? How much has democracy contributed to our economic growth?
I think democracy creates an enabling environment or a conducive environment for investors to invest. But that is where the Nigerian problem lies. The investment that are attracted to the country, besides in the IT, the communication sector, is mainly in the oil sector, and that is the problem. The democratic dispensation have not been able to ensure that we have a structural transformation of the economy, whereby we have a robust manufacturing sector. We manufacture what we consume and also export. Then also transit to high value added services. Majority of the people that are in the service sector in Nigeria today are in the informal sector. And I think most of them can barely survive on daily basis. So you have a very high number of underemployment, and under the democratic dispensation, because we have not been able to expand and build our manufacturing capacity and industrial capacity in general, what you have is increasing unemployment. At the moment, the unemployment rate, that is those that live below $1.90, is 133 million Nigeria. That is about 62 or 63% of Nigerians that live below the poverty line. So if you are looking at...
Hello, Prof. Okay, well, it looks like we'll try and get Prof back again. He was talking about, how many Nigerians live below the poverty level right now. We did get that report from the NBS that millions of Nigerians are multidimensionally poor, at this time. All right, Prof.
Yes.
Prof. Emmanuel, okay, I think we lost you for a moment there, and you did, talk about, Nigerians being plunged into poverty at this point. But let's talk about the way forward now. How do we fix, this? How do we, enjoy the benefits, of our democracy, going forward? What would you like to see from a Tinubu government, going forward?
Yes, I think since President Tinubu took over in the last 2 weeks, he has taken some very good steps. The removal of oil subsidy is a huge initiative that will have a medium to long-term impact on our development trajectory, because the so-called subsidy, the funds from that should be invested on infrastructure, should be a basis to diversify the Nigerian economy, to build a strong industrial sector that will absorb a number of Nigerians, that is basically employed Nigerians. So it is a very good initiative. And also, the funds from that can be invested, can also be invested into sector, which is which is education and the health sectors. At the moment, Nigeria spent about 10 billion on both education and health, that is outside the country. That is health tourism, and the number of, that is the fees that Nigerians pay outside. It's about 10 billion a year. So this money that is being saved from the subsidy can be invested to build world-class universities, to build world-class health sector, and in the process, it will also increase our foreign reserve. So I think the current president has started well, and I think he needs the support of all of us.
Right. I guess we all have to be patient and hope for the very best going forward, and we can reap the benefits of our democracy. Thank you so much, Professor Omano Diaji, Associate Professor of Practice, University of Johannesburg, and happy Democracy Day again.
Happy Democracy Day to you and to all the listeners, and we wish the new administration the very best. To sustain our democracy, it must ensure that Nigerians reap the dividends of democracy.
Well said, Professor. Thank you so much. It was great having you. All right, so now after the break, we'll drill down on fuel subsidy removal. What can Nigerians expect going forward? That's our next conversation. Just stay with us.